Was good. All right, guys. So I have a problem. Okay, I've been having this problem for years now, and I don't know like the answer to it. So I was wondering if maybe you guys knew the answer to it. Okay. The problem is, what happened to the cars of the future? Now, as many of you know, I'm a pretty big car guy. You know, if you keep up with my socials, you guys know that I like to make skits and like videos about cars and stuff like that. And I think that stems from my dad and uncle, because they are very car people, you know, like they're car enthusiasts, as you might call them, you know. However, they're not just like your typical car guys. No, they're your classic car guys. There's a difference. So let's take this all the way back to 1886, to when the first car ever dropped in the world. And that was, fun fact, it was not Henry Ford who did that. So the first car ever produced was actually by a guy named Carl Benz. Yeah, you learn something new every day, right? Anyway, I'm just playing, guys. We're not gonna go all the way back to the 1800s. Not what was like a history class? No mames. But look, listen, if you do want me to talk about like the history of old cars, I mean, I would love to do that. Just drop a comment down below and let me know. So we are still gonna take it back, right? But we're not gonna take it back that far. No, we're gonna take it back maybe about like 50-ish years ago, to when the first muscle car was ever produced, and that created the car community, or I should say, the car guys. Now think about it, the term car guys, I mean, it's a cool term, right? But nowadays, you know, a lot more ladies are actually getting into the car scene, which is cool, you know. Hey, come on over, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. Hey, ladies, are you a big fan of like the word car guys? You know what I mean? Like, would you like to be called a car guy? Because I don't know, some girls probably like would, but I'm just saying, you know, like there's probably some other ladies who are like, you know, like don't call me that, you know what I'm saying? So should we call you like car girls? Or you know what? Just to make it like a universal term, we should just be like car enthusiast. I mean, that sounds pretty chill, no? So the first muscle car that made a change in this world involving the car community is none other than the 1964 Pontiac GTO. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this 3,500 pound of pure muscle, pure speed, pure car was the one that started this whole car community. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the stats on this sucker, huh? So this baby had a nice solid V8 engine. Ooh, hey, listen, is it really a muscle car if it doesn't have a V8 engine in it? Don't worry, we'll get to that later. We're talking about a V8 engine, 325 horsepower, 0 to 60 in a whopping 7.7 seconds. Yeah, that is the one thing that you know isn't like, whoa, for real? Because you know, we're so used to like 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and 2 seconds, but you know, back in the day, 7.7 seconds was probably like, damn, this thing is quick, you know? And you guys gotta think about, like, this was back in the 60s, you know what I mean? So if some homie or some homegirl hopped in this whip, right, the GTO, and they're talking about like, hey, check out this 0 to 60 real quick, they're gonna get blown away because they're not used to that type of speed, you know? I don't even know if they had airplanes. Well, no, I think they did have airplanes, but they weren't to like the extent that we have now. No, what they had was literally like nothing compared to what we have now. So I'm assuming that it was really fast for them. But you also want to know what else started once this muscle car dropped? Ladies and gentlemen, none other than the annoying car salesman. Yes, I know. I think this was like the spawn of it. Now look, I'm not hating on car salesmen by any means, okay? Because I know y'all got a job to do, and y'all's job is to make sure we buy that whip so you guys get your commission. Yeah, I know that, okay? But listen, to us, it just seems a little annoying, you know what I mean? Now back in the day, you could buy this Pontiac GTO, you know? You could just go out to the dealership and just cop one real quick, you know what I mean? However, this is where the sneaky car salesmen come in, because you could have the option to just buy one, you know what I mean? But since this was the first produced muscle car, they're milking this sucker. They're gonna milk this till the day they die, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you could get the base model Pontiac GTO, or if you wanted that little extra just that little extra you could potentially pay a little more and then upgrade it. Because if 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds and 325 horsepower wasn't enough for you, ladies and gentlemen, you could upgrade this vehicle to the Pontiac GTO Tri-Power. Okay. This is when the car salesman really started to think like, hey, you know what? Why don't we just try to sell the version of this GTO, you know what I mean? Even though people are gonna like it, we can try to sell them on it, the car salesman. Okay. Now, was it really all that much better? Because the original Pontiac GTO was pumping out 325 horsepower, but this new and improved Tri-Power was actually pumping out Actually, I'm gonna give you guys a quick second to guess how much horsepower do you guys think this oomphed version of the Pontiac GTO was putting out. Just go ahead. I'll give you a few seconds, you know. All right, time is up. So you guys want to know how much this new and improved tri-power GTO was pumping out? It was pumping out a whopping 348 horsepower. Yeah, I mean, it's literally 23 more horsepower than the base model version, and you gotta fork over a bit more chunk of change for that, for 23 more horsepower. Now think about it, that actually wasn't that bad, because you know, if you're gonna get a little more oomph, a little more power for just a little bit more, I mean, that sounds like a good deal. Because nowadays, if you want dang heated seats, you gotta pump out like 1,000 extra, you know what I mean? If you want the extra LED bright lights, you gotta pump out another 2 bands. So I mean, it's not even like benefiting the performance of the vehicle. It's kind of more like cosmetics, you know, like the accessories. That makes sense. So a little history lesson here. The original Pontiac GTO was priced at $2,300, which in today's times is about 23 bands. Yeah, 23 thou wow. And that's honestly, I mean, that sounds about right if I think about it correctly, because nowadays you can go to a car dealership and you can look at, I don't know, maybe like a little Honda Civ, you know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, nowadays Honda Civics aren't even 23 bands. I mean, you're probably looking at a little Ford Fiesta for that price. So I was actually doing a little bit more research, and it turns out that actually the actual Pontiac GTO, it wasn't really the base model. No, you get the Pontiac car, you know, like you get the GTO, right? But if you wanted the GTO, like what it actually gave you, which gave you like more power, more oomph to your car, you had to actually get that additionally. Yeah, no, so the tri-power, that wasn't even the fully, well, I guess it was the fully spec'd one, but there's levels to this, you know what I mean? So you got the base, then you got the GTO, and then you got the tri-power. Yeah, no, I just realized that right now. So if you did in fact want a little bit more oomph and wanted the GTO option, you're looking at forking over a little $300 extra on top of that to get a little more power there, right? And nowadays, I mean, 300 bucks, that'll get you some seat covers, you know? And if you really wanted that 23 extra horsepower for the tri-power mode, you were looking at spending another 100 bucks. Yeah, just a quick little 100 bucks. Isn't that kind of crazy? So in total, for a fully spec'd out, state-of-the-art Pontiac GTO, you're looking at about 3 grand. Yeah, 3 grand. And nowadays, that's like rent in some places every month. Yeah, you're literally buying you're buying a GTO a month basically from back in the day. But then again, you know, you gotta look at how like the money changes throughout the years and all that. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. Now, as the years progress, we got more muscle cars, you know what I mean? We got the Ford Mustang that everybody loved back in the day, and honestly, they've definitely gotten a reputation nowadays, but a lot of people still love them. You know, there's a really big car community for the Mustang lovers. We got the Camaros, we got the Corvettes. You can't go wrong with the Corvettes. Yeah, we got a bunch of more muscle cars that came out, you know what I mean? But we also got what I like to call the gone but never forgotten cars. Yes. Now you're probably thinking, Luisi, what are you talking about, the gone but never forgotten cars? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not really into cars like that, you probably won't even know what I'm even talking about right now. But back in the day, we had some really nice classic cars, and I'm talking about the Chevelles, I'm talking about the Barracudas, I'm talking about the Duster. If you know, you know. These were the babies that carried the 19th century of muscle cars all the way down to the 2000s. Yes, no, these cars were basically like their Hellcats, their Scat Packs, their C8s, their Z06s. Yeah, that was their cars. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, they were some of the most beautiful cars that have ever hit the market, and just so much personality. But like I said, the gone but never forgotten, because you know they never made it out of that year. You know, they're still over there. You know, they're not producing them anymore. So ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, let's take a moment of silence for the gone but never forgotten cars. 3, 2, 1. Let me hit one of these real quick just for the gone but never forgotten. Hold on, a little moment of silence. Now, why don't we go ahead and talk about today's cars? Because today's cars are they're a little bit different, to say the least. Now, as I was mentioning before, there are two types of car guys, right? You got the car guys of today's times, you know, that are into like Supras, you know, Civics, Japanese cars, muscle cars. But you also got the classic muscle car guys. You know what I mean? You got the classic car guys who were really into the muscle cars back in the day, certain different types of cars, you know what I mean? Not just what we're used to today. The classic muscle car guys are pretty set back in their times, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they really like the new cars nowadays, you know what I mean? Because they are still pretty nice and pumping out really, really fast times compared to what they were used to. But you know, now think about it, they're probably still stuck in their ways, I'm assuming. I mean, not like that, but you know, they still really enjoy the V8s, manual transmissions, non-electric vehicles. Let's take a look at Mustang, for example, okay? Back in 1967, you had this beauty, this piece of art of a car. Oh my goodness, literally such a beautiful car. Now let's take a look at it in today's times. Yeah, that's where Mustang is at today. It's a muscle car, but is it a muscle SUV? I don't like, where's the muscle in this Mustang? What, in the chips and the battery? Like, now if you were to show somebody this car back in the 60s and told them like, hey, this is what Mustang's gonna be in the future, they probably would have knocked you out. Yeah, no, I'm serious. They probably would have knocked you out and said, get that shit out of my face, little homie. Like, that's probably what they would have told you. But if you told them that it was gonna be electric, that's when they'd probably like pick you back up from the floor and be like, all right, my bad, you know, dust you off a little bit, because you know, they probably thought that electric cars were gonna be a thing in the future, you know what I mean? But they didn't think that it was gonna be starting with Mustangs. Like, they would never think that a muscle car was gonna be electric. So we basically went from having 400 horsepower, V8 engines, manual transmissions, the whole shebang, to big ass screens and buttons everywhere. Yeah, that's where we ended up, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not hating on electric cars, nah, because you know, if you think about it, they are kind of, you know, good for the planet, you know, because they're releasing less stuff in the air, you know, it's more batteries and stuff like that. So I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it is pretty good for the environment. However, if you're into cars and if you're a car guy, then you know that you like hearing the engine, you know, you like hearing the roars, especially on Hellcats, you know, you like hearing the you know what I'm saying? Like, it's talking back to you. So when it's an electric car, we're not like hating, you know what I'm saying? We're just hating on the fact that we can't hear it, if that makes sense. I actually want to know what you guys think about this, because I know in the car community there's like a 50-50 split between this, because there are some people who actually enjoy more technology into cars, but then that means more screens, more buttons, a little bit more of a headache. Or should we kind of go back to how it was, where there was maybe like a small little screen, minimal buttons, you know, just the buttons that you need, the climate controls and all that? Should we go back to that, or should we still continue to advance to having more technology in the cars? I want to know what you guys think about that. Put it down in the comments down below. Now, in my opinion, if you guys actually want to know my opinion on this stance, I'm actually a pretty big fan of tech in cars. Yes, I know. All right, chill out. Listen, I got a reason, okay? So I'm a pretty big car guy, right? But I also am a pretty big tech guy. Yeah, I love anything to do with technology, and if you put those two together, cars and tech, then I'm sold. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, for example, the homie MKBHD. You know, he's a really big tech guy. However, he's also got a passion for cars. So in his case, you know, it's kind of like the same deal with me, because I really like tech and cars, and so does he. So it's kind of like that, just to put an example out there. But the thing is, I like tech in cars when it actually works. No, when it actually works. If it's not working, like if the screen's laggy, if it's buggy, if it's messing with how you drive, then that's where I draw the line, ladies and gentlemen. But I also feel like the more technology that goes into these cars, the cheaper the cars feel, you know what I mean? Because nowadays, you know, you kind of like press onto the plastic in the car, like in the interior, and it's creaking like a bed, man. It's creaking for real. Like back in the day, you know, you get an older car, especially muscle cars, that's not creaking. Well, I mean, it probably will creak, but you know, I feel like it's a little bit more durable than what we got right now. But hold on. Listen, if we're talking about muscle cars though, listen, I don't want any tech in that. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'll do a little screen, you know, because I need my CarPlay. I'm gonna be honest. I need my CarPlay, okay? If you know about CarPlay, if you know, you know. Once you go to CarPlay, you can't go back without it, okay? But listen, if we're talking about muscle cars though, as long as I got my CarPlay, that's all I need, okay? Take everything else out. I don't care about the digital dash on that, man. Just give me the full raw power, baby. The full V8, the full, you know what I'm saying? The whole shebang on that. I could care less about any tech on muscle cars. I don't know. It's just like once you hear like the raw sound of a V8 engine, oh my, man, that's like music to my ears. You know, you really feel that in the soul, you know? Like I was saying before, I also want to know your guys' opinions on this too. Like, should we have more technology in the cars, you know, like more screens, more buttons, or should we just kind of chill out with that, you know, and just kind of keep it minimal? And I also want to add that the reason why I also like technology in the cars is because of the convenience, you know what I mean? Like my thing is that whatever makes my life easier, hey, I'll take it, you know what I mean? Like, you know, having CarPlay, for example, you know, you got a screen, but you got like maps, you got music, you got a whole bunch of other things that you can do on the screen itself through like CarPlay. So that's why I like it. And come on now. Come on, you know you like those heated seats, you know you like the little extra amenities that come with the technology in these cars. Come on now, hey, don't lie to me, don't lie to me. Even having fully powered mirrors are pretty nice, you know what I mean? But like I said, I only like tech in cars when it works. So this actually brings me to my next point, and we're going to be talking about Teslas. Yes, Teslas, the electric cars of the world. Now, Teslas are known to be, you know, everybody has them. However, they're also known to have a lot of problems. For example, screens turning off while you are in the middle of driving, or screen's just not working at all. Now, if you don't know much about Teslas, basically the screen is the only thing in the car that you can actually like use, you know what I mean, other than the blinkers. Well, I guess nowadays the blinkers is now on the steering wheel. But yeah, so the screen is like your safety net, okay? So if the screen's not working, then your car's not working. So then you're just sitting in like a $45,000 piece of metal. Now, politics aside, let's just talk about the Tesla's cars, okay? So the car itself is actually like one of the most minimalistic cars that we have on the market today. So if you are a fan of minimalism, or you know, you're just a pretty big fan of keeping things minimal, well, this is the perfect car for you. And one thing I do like about Teslas that car manufacturers are starting to do now is just having the convenience of controlling your car through your phone, if that makes sense. So nowadays you can get like a brand new 2025 and they will have some sort of app or some sort of feature on your phone that you can like see the gas level, you can remote start it from your phone, you can climate control it. Yeah, so I do like that more cars are starting to do that. But the one thing about Teslas, man, come on, those designs, bro, what are we doing here? And look, if you are a big fan of how they look, then hey, to each their own, you know what I mean? Whatever makes you happy, you know, but in my opinion, I don't know, guys, it just kind of looks like a, I don't know, man, like they all look the same. There's not really like much personality to them. It's like a dystopian car now, you know what I mean? It's, I don't know, I don't know. Compared to what we have right now, or even the cars in the past, these Tesla designs are just, yeah, I don't know, they're just not doing it for me. I don't know, I'm sorry, okay? And this kind of brings me back to my point what I was saying earlier, you know, them being electric and all, you know, it's kind of nice that they're not releasing a whole bunch of extra stuff in the air, you know what I mean? But the designs though, hey, listen, the designs, like what is this? What is this, ladies and gentlemen? When I first saw the design for the Cybertruck, or even when they first unveiled the Cybertruck, I thought it was a joke. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was like a big joke that, oh, haha, it's just a prototype. But no, actually, people are actually buying this because the amount of Cybertrucks I have seen on the road is actually quite impressive. I'm not gonna lie, I did not think that this many people would actually buy this car. Or this truck, I should say. Now, if you were to show this to someone back in the 60s and said, hey, this is what the cars in the future are gonna look like, they would have been like, yeah, you know what, you're right. But the design though, I mean, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. What do you guys think about the design? Because me personally, I mean, I think it's unique. It looks unique for sure, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I can get with it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about that. But what about flying cars though? Like, are we ever gonna get flying cars? Because right now, I think there is some car manufacturer brand or something. I think somewhere in China, I think I saw that they were testing out flying cars. So hey, if that's gonna be a thing soon, are we gonna need a driver's license, or are we gonna need like a pilot license? You know what I'm saying? Are we gonna get like a hybrid? I don't even know. But going back to the design of the Cybertruck, man, I don't know if I can get with that. You know what I mean? Because, you know, compared to what we have right now, you know, we got like Supras, we got like Challengers, we got the Camaros, we got the C8s. You know, their designs just look mean, aggressive. You know, they got some nice personality to them. But the one thing about those damn Teslas is that, damn, they can really pick up. Yeah, no, they can really pick up the pace. I'm not gonna lie. So for like a Model S Plaid, which is like the highest model you can get in a Model S, you're looking at a 0 to 60 in 1.99 seconds. Oh my. Yeah, if the people in the 60s thought that 7.7 seconds for 0 to 60 was fast, wait till you put them in a Model S Plaid. Oh my. That's equivalent to about 1.45 Gs. So yeah, once you step on that gas pedal, you're gonna be sticking to that seat and you're gonna feel every single G of that. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen. So the one thing about Teslas that we can all collectively agree on is They're fast as fuck. Yeah, no, they're pretty fast. Now, the one car brand that has stuck to their roots ever since day one is none other than Dodge. Yes, their muscle cars. Woo-wee! Every year they bring out some heat, ladies and gentlemen. The Challengers, the Chargers, they always make them look as similar as how they looked back in the day. You know, at least with the Challengers. Up until now. Yeah, no, Luisi, put up a picture of what it is now. Yeah, that's what we're looking at now, ladies and gentlemen. And when I first saw that, I cried. I low-key shed a little tear because I was like, this is not a muscle car. Because what is this, like a fusion of a Challenger, but they're calling it a Charger? So it's like a 2-in-1. And why the hell do they have the homie Scat Pack there, man? Why do they got the Scat Pack B on there? Nah, like, it's an electric car because the B, he has wheels. So in a way, he has some sort of engine inside of him, you know? So he is a car in a way, but why are they putting him on this electric car? What is he, like an electric B? What is he, powered by a battery? You know, like a little Energizer battery? Like, come on. So if you got a Charger or a Challenger, you know, with a V8 or even a V6, I mean, just cherish it because I don't think it's ever gonna come back, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of which, can you guys believe that Dodge actually made a freaking Hellcat? Like, they really made a 707 horsepower street legal fucking beast that you can just cruise around in. Like, what the fuck? No, hold on. Hellcat was a thing of the past, I guess, because now we got a motherfucking Dodge Demon, ladies and gentlemen, that's pumping out 1,000 horsepower. What in the world? You're telling me that I can go out and just get 1,000 horsepower muscle car just like that and I can just like whip around in it? Like, wow. But I'm not gonna lie though, that's pretty badass. That's pretty badass, you know what I mean? That you can just cruise around in that. I mean, and the engine, I've heard how it sounds, and it sounds, gosh, the supercharged, oh my, it just sounds beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. It's just like music to my ears. Now, I can go on and on and on talking about cars, you know, because I'm a big car guy. You know, I've been around cars ever since I was a little kid. But, you know, I think that now we gotta accept the fact that cars nowadays, they're kind of losing their personality touch, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because now everything's getting more modernized, a little more 2025-ish, if that makes sense. And I'm talking about more specifically like the muscle car category, you know, like the Chargers, the Challengers, the Mustangs, the Corvettes. Yeah, you know, a lot of them are, I don't know, they're just kind of like losing their personality touch. But I'm not gonna lie though, the Corvettes, I feel like they've been really just kind of on top of their game this whole time. You know, have you guys seen the C8s? Gosh, they look like mini supercars. But I think one of the reasons why I love cars so much is because, well, it kind of brings everybody together, you know, because no matter if you're into Japanese cars, if you're into muscle cars, if you're into electric cars, one thing that we all have in common is that we all have a love for cars. So just because somebody likes something different or somebody likes a different type of car, I mean, it doesn't make them any different than what we are, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we each have our own opinions and our own likes and dislikes about cars, you know what I mean? Because if I like one thing that you might not like, well, you might like one thing that I don't like, you know? And at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we all love cars. We love cars, you know? So one thing I will say is that don't ever feel bad about what you're driving, you know what I mean? Or like what kind of cars you're actually interested in, because, you know, if like your homie doesn't like it, then what's it to the homie, you know what I mean? Because if you like it and it makes you feel good and it makes you feel like, all right, like I actually like this car, you know, it makes me feel good, then hey, what the hell, why not, you know what I mean? That's what matters the most, you know what I mean? Because if it makes you happy, then that's all that should really matter, you know? Because cars are gonna make everybody happy, but in their own way. Damn, all deep? Hold on, man, I just got all deep with y'all. Hold on now. No, but it's facts though. It's facts, man, because I like certain type of cars that other people might not like, you know? Because some people are into trucks, but other people might not be into trucks, and vice versa, you know what I mean? So it's just, you know, we all love cars at the end of the day, man. Cars is the universe thing that we all love. So like I said, man, just like what you like and love what you love. And I want to know your guys' opinions on this too. Should we keep cars the way that they're going now, you know, with the technology and just kind of how they're making them look, or should we kind of chill out with the technology, maybe go back to like I don't know, like a different look for the cars, if that makes sense? Because I'm not saying this for all the cars, right? Because not all the cars nowadays from back in the day are looking ugly, because there's actually some really nice cars that are this generation, however, that have been around since like the 70s, you know what I mean? Like I was saying, the C8 Corvettes, beautiful car. We got a lot of Mercedes, a lot of BMWs that are actually really looking nice. I mean, well, BMWs kind of look the same to me, but the interior I think is where they shine. You know, they're more of like they're the luxury section. So it has to look a certain way for like the luxury, you know, the clients. But I mean, other than that, you know, like they got the G-Wagon, those things things are looking cool. You got a lot of other cars that are looking pretty sweet from nowadays that were from a long time ago. So it's just a certain amount of cars that are like, I don't know about that. Well, I don't know if we should have those here. And it seems like electric cars are kind of making their way into the car market right now. So I mean, you know, as car enthusiasts, I just guess we gotta accept that, you know what I mean? And if you don't like it, I mean, hey, that's up to you, you know what I mean? And if you do like electric cars, then hey, well, that's what's up, you know what I mean? Because that's what you like, you know? All right, guys, I hope you guys have a great day today, and I will catch you guys in the next one.